Hi everyone and welcome to a slightly warm loft here at Dean Park Model Railway. It's always exciting to bring you new content on the channel, and today is no different as I take a look at some new additions to the collection. Before you settle down, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you're notified when I've uploaded something new. Today is the latest release of Bachmann's highly acclaimed FGA and FFA container wagons. Before I show off these models, here's a potted history on the real things. The vital role played by the maritime shipping container in the global economy we live in cannot be underestimated. The influence they have on the mass movement of goods around the globe since their introduction over 50 years ago impacts on almost every aspect of our day-to-day lives. These vast stackable boxes are shipped all around the world, bringing us food, clothing, car parts, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and yes, the model trains we all enjoy on our layouts. Prior to the shipping container, the movement of goods and global trade looked very different. Cargo ships were smaller and had to be offloaded at docks by an army of dock workers, stored in vast warehouses before being loaded onto trains and lorries to move it around the country. This all changed with the arrival of the shipping container, as goods could now be quickly offloaded and either stacked at vast facilities such as Felixstowe or Southampton, or put straight onto trains and Arctic trucks waiting at the dockside. An army of dockers working in difficult environments was replaced by a computerised system and massive cranes. This sped up the movement of goods from its source to the consumer, with the balance of global trade relying on this massive container ship plotting their way from point to point around the globe, on a well-managed timetable. However, as we've recently seen, even the slightest issue can disrupt global trade. Take the Ever Given incident in 2021 as an example, when a container ship ran aground in the Suez Canal. This blocked the shipping lane, resulting in billions of dollars of global trade being lost every day. This impacted consumers with basic items delayed due to this disruption. So, the shipping container and these giant ships can quite literally dictate our everyday lives. If the jet engine changed the way we travel, then the shipping container changed the way we live. The importance of the quick movement of goods was recognised by British Railways as far back as the 1950s, and by the early 1960s, BR had produced prototype wagons from its Shildon works in County Durham. These bogie wagons were made up of a skeletal frame and could accommodate 60 foot worth of containers in various configurations, for example carrying 3 20-foot or 2 30-foot units on each wagons, and later the use of ISO 40-foot containers as well. The trains hauling these wagons were typically worked as block trains in semi-fixed or multiple formations of 4 to 5 wagons. These were made up of 2 outer wagons, designated FGA, which had buffers on the outermost ends, and 3 FFA wagons in between these. These did not have buffers and they wouldn't run without the outer wagons. There were 2 types of these container trains. You had domestic freight, which moved goods around within the UK, made up of Freightliner branded containers, and you had maritime freight, which consisted of goods coming into the UK or leaving as exports overseas. In the 1960s, BR developed these wagons from the original batch of 100, with modifications coming as a result of the standardisation of the system for mounting containers to vehicles. The bogies themselves were also improved to feature inboard brakes mounted directly onto the axles. The era of BR Blue had also arrived, so the wagon frames also received this new corporate appearance. The total number of these wagons built in the UK numbered around 2,000 at their peak, but the fleet started to dwindle into the early 1990s as newer types were developed. The FGA and FFA provided the backbone of container freight movements across the UK over 4 decades, and their impact cannot be underestimated. Back in 2018, Bachmann filled a large gap in the double-O gauge wagon market with the release of their new FGA outer and FFA inner wagons. Prior to these models, you had the prehistoric Hornby Triangle models from the 1970s. Therefore, Bachmann's all-new model was a very welcome sight in the ready-to-run market. Offered in twin packs of FGA, individual FFAs, and also for the first time as a complete 5-wagon bundle deal, Bachmann provides modelers with a choice of early BR style in the grey and red Freightliner branded boxes, and these come in 20 and 30 foot boxes, or the post-1980s shipping company branded boxes, which are provided in 20 and 40 foot containers, covering the wagon's whole BR era. A good number of these wagons lasted well into the post-BR era as well. The type and livery of containers provided by Bachmann provide modellers with a good mix, from 20 and 40 foot dry containers to the cradled tank containers as seen here. The detail on these is extremely impressive, with a host of finely printed detail on several faces of the box. The ends are also highly detailed with separately fitting locking mechanisms. The ribbing on these containers is accurate as per the prototype and is flawlessly moulded as well. Looking at the tank container, and these are equally, if not more impressive. From every angle these look great, bristling with printed detail and separately fitted parts. I particularly like the tread plate walkways and the end access ladder. There are even faint signs of the welds on the tanks themselves, as well as end rivet detail. The cradle is robust and fully decorated. The effort Bachmann have put into these is nothing short of brilliant, and the level of printing really gives you a sense of the effort that's been put into producing these, with each layer of printing going through several tampo processes, just to get the right look. Nothing has been left off, and it's resulted in a great product. However, for me, modelling into the mid to late 80s, some of these containers and tanks were out of era, being more likely seen in the 1990s. This left me with a slight problem. However, thanks to Serial, I was able to substitute the non-era specific containers for suitable ones, and this includes the 20, 30 and 40 foot Bell containers seen up here in Scotland in the 1980s. The bulk container has top loading for loose material, as well as a discharge hatch for unloading. Everything about these containers has been thoroughly researched. I've also added some containers from Tiphook, Genstar and Trans-American Leasing. These all have the earlier flat ribs and vertical panel at each end for the company branding and container details to be displayed. These new additions from Serial really do enhance the look of the train, allowing you to make it more relevant to your area and era. They are keenly priced as well, at around £7 to £9.50, depending on the type of container you need. And Aaron, along at Serial, also supplies blank containers, allowing you to add your own livery if you wish. Serial are also a local company to me, and I've been impressed by the quality of their product. You can buy these direct, and I've popped the website in the description below. I must stress I'm not affiliated to Serial, I'm just a very happy paying customer. Turning my attention to the wagon that carries these containers, and Bachmann really have given us something special here. The open frame is made of metal, adding much needed weight to the wagon. You can also see the underframe details such as pipework and air tanks, handbrake wheels, etc. It's all fine but surprisingly robust. The printed detail on the frame is really sharp and impressive. The paint finish is even and has a satin sheen to it, and it's crying out for some weathering, which is something I'll be looking into in the months ahead. But with so many jobs on my to-do list here at Dean Park, I wouldn't like to put a date on getting these and the containers weathered. The wagon also has separately fitted twist locks which would hold the container on the frame in real life, and these are tiny red-orange details that go along the length of the wagons. Bachmann have supplied two types of these, one in the raised position and others in the lowered, as you can see here. The lowered ones would obviously be used where no container mounting point was required, and the raised ones positioned to support the four corners of the containers as fitted. These fiddly details come on a sprue in the detailing pack and have to be fitted by you. They can be a snug fit, but I found the locks in the raised position to be a bit loose, so I've used a dab of rocket car glue or glue and glaze to hold them in position. If you want to hold them in place forever, then some Rocket Rapid super glue would do the job. But I found the water-based alternative to give more working time for me to position and align them properly, and if I did wish to remove them in future, I could do more easily than if I'd used the Rocket Rapid super glue. Bachmann also provides splash plates to fit onto the upper ends of the frames, and this was used to reduce splash coming up from the wheels, making the containers filthy, as well as the lead wagon decorating the loco with all shades of rail grime. All wagons have a close coupler kinematic system, and Bachmann provide a fixed coupling bar for connection of the inner FFA wagons. However, at the ends of each formation you have a buffer fitted FGA, and a tension lock is provided here, but this could be swapped out for a KD or magnetic coupler to suit your preference. Buffers are softly sprung, and there is a buffer beam detailing pack that can be fitted, although only fit this detail at the very end of the train as no coupler can then be fitted. All wagons run freely on concentric wheel sets. I did have a small issue with one that had a slight wobble, but after checking the back-to-backs of the wheels and tightening up the bogie screw, it seems to have sorted the issue. I pride myself on well-laid track that's flat and true, so any rolling stock that doesn't run smoothly is picked up fairly easily. All in all, I'm a very satisfied customer. Container freight is something I've always hoped to add to the collection, as they do add a splash of colour, as they're not as mundane as a rake of, say, matching hoppers or tankers. I'll leave you now with some shots of them plying their trade on the main lines of Dean Park, being hauled by a selection of suitable traction for the period, which includes a Class 47, 86 and a Railfreight Distribution liveried Class 90. If you're still with me, thanks for watching. I think I'll nip downstairs now for an ice cream. Before I do, however, please don't forget to hit those like and subscribe icons. It helps me grow the channel and is always appreciated. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.